Welcome everyone to the Talking Stox Zoom debate, and it's been a long time. We've been done one of these for about a year, I think. But anyway, so we're going to crack on with a new tasty subject for this particular episode, and so with me, Neil Randon, as your host, along with Colin Casserley and Ian Higgins as per usual. So this time round, we're not going to be doing a top 10 list as such. We're going to be doing 10 topics of 2023. We're basically going to go through the year, various things that we think need either addressing or just commenting on, and we'll sort of take it from there. So how are you guys doing anyway? How are you doing then, Colin?
Not too bad. Had a good season. So looking forward to this debate because there's some interesting things that have been said about the season and what could be done to improve it. So that'll be interesting to see everyone's ideas.
Yeah. What about you, Ian?
Yeah, not too bad. Unfortunately, I don't get to see as much of the F1s as I used to, but still have my finger on the pulse a little bit, so I might be able to contribute something.
Of course you will, mate. I know you will. Okay, well, without further ado, we'll crack on. I'll just put up the list of subjects for this Zoom debate podcast, and here we are. There they are. 10 Talking Stox topics. First one, the National Points Shootout. Does it need a revamp? Second one, the World Final weekend at Northampton. Now we thought that went. Third one is the World Final next year at Skegness. And obviously the fact that it's going to be a 3-day meeting and what we think how that will pan out. Going to do the Gala meeting and the British Touring Car Invitational Trophy, which is something I was involved with last year and we're looking to do again this year. 5 will be Driver of the Year, 6 Promoter of the Year, 7 Track of the Year, 8 Race of the Year, 9 Young Driver of the Year, and then 10 the season as a whole and how we rate it compared to the other seasons previously. Okay, so we'll do the National Points Shootout and whether it needs a revamp. I think having seen lots of discussion about this on social media, and also spoken to people about it as well, with Tom Harris in particular, even 12 months ago after the Ipswich World Final, he was saying they need to do something about this, change this, it's not working. And I spoke to him again after the World Final this year. He said exactly the same thing. So what do you think then, Colin? What does the shootout need changing?
Yes. That's seriously. In a word, yes. It's true. That's a good idea in principle, but it's just not working. It's gone a little bit not stale. I don't think it's the right word, but it's not as competitive as people were hoping it would be. Going back to the old times when whoever scored the most points won the silver roof. Stuart Smith and that used to win by double what everybody else was getting, but it didn't stop us going to meetings. At the moment, the impression I get from the fans is a little bit that because, say, Tom's going to win this year, why go to the meeting to see what's going to happen? Now, stock car racing is about everything, about all the racing. You look at last Sunday, Tom's going to win maybe the shootout, but there was a great race in the whites and yellows between Henry Robson and Russell Cooper. So the fact that Tom's going to win it shouldn't stop people going, but it sounds to me like that is happening, and that the shootout is a be all and end all of these meetings. So I think it's got to change. Now, I've heard several ideas. Nigel Anderson come up with a good idea about changing the points, similar to a Grand Prix system, where the shootout driver who scores the most points in that meeting gets 15 points, the second driver gets 12, 10, and so on. So the points gap isn't too great over the series. I was speaking to Graham Robson, and he suggested that maybe after 4 rounds, 4 drivers drop out, points are zeroed. After the next 4 rounds, another 4 drop out, leaving 1 round, again the points zeroed, where the last meeting of the season, the 4 drivers in that are left have got 0 points, and they race for the over one meeting for the title. Again, there's other ideas like because Ryan Harrison's a darn good driver, Craig Finnegan's a good driver. People are saying, why aren't they in the shootout? I mean, Craig should be there because he scored enough points.
Yeah.
Ryan should be there because he's a darn good driver. Why not do something like they do in golf, where if you win a major championship, you're automatically seeded back in for 10 years. I'm not saying 10 years in stock cars, but say anyone who's won the world, the British, the European, or the points, or the shootout, is seeded into the shootout if they've won in the last 5 years. And if we have 20 cars in the shootout, so be it. That'd be great. Be great for the fans. I think that those ideas have got to come in, because it's just not working as it is at the moment.
No, I agree with that. What about you, Ian? What do you think?
Yeah, I pretty much what Colin said there. The thing I didn't actually realise about the shootout is that they don't all start on 0 points.
Exactly.
They've got certain points from where they've scored throughout the season. I don't know what it is, but I thought they all started on 0 and it went from there. But apparently, it doesn't quite work like that.
No.
For listening to the drivers, I think you get you win $7,500 or something. I'm not sure what it is. There's about 10 grand in prize money, but I think the winner gets about, I'm not sure if it's $4,500 or whatever it is. But the drivers are saying that if they do every round, working out the cost that it's costing them to do a round, even winning it doesn't cover the cost of doing those rounds. And like Colin said, Craig Finnegan opted out. He looked at it and he
wasn't allowed in it.
Yeah, that's the thing. He wasn't.
Yeah,
because he only did one surface was the problem.
Yeah, that's it. This one surface thing, but it's like with Ryan. Unfortunately, because of bans, etc., Ryan missed out. But now Ryan's running off the front of Reds.
Yeah, that's madness, isn't it? And he's winning everything. I mean, he would do from there. I mean, he's never going to get caught, especially on shale. I mean, he's probably the fastest guy on shale anyway at the moment. I'd say probably even quicker than Tom in a lot of respects. But I agree. I mean, the fact is, if you're going to go with the top 12 point scorers in the points table to go in the shootout, then no matter, it shouldn't make any difference what surface you race on. If you prefer racing on shale or tarmac, it shouldn't make any difference, because Craig, I think, was 3rd or 4th in the points, just racing on one surface. So it shows he's got the ability to even probably finish in the top 3 in the shootout. So it makes no sense at all in my book to not allow probably one of the top.
I fully understand why. I understand why they do it, because after the world final, the season does tend to drag off. I mean, we run a little in the karts after our gold top. We run the series at the end of the season to try and keep some interest. But like Colin said, the way I sort of like the sound of it, to keep it closer, is doing it like the Grand Prix type thing, where it's 50. Highest point scorer gets 15. Second highest point scorer gets 12. Third highest gets, and do it that way, keeping it closer.
I think that, they've got to do something like that. I think, like you say, and you could even mix it in with, eliminating, the bottom 4 after 4 rounds or something, just because a lot of them are, they're in it, which is great for, 1 or 2 of them to get into the shootout, but they're not going to be in contention for it when it gets to the final round of the season, which you want to be a dramatic, exciting finish. I mean, it was an exciting finish last year, admittedly, when Lee Fairhurst gave Tom a real run for his money at the final round. But that was the only time, as Tom said to me, it was the only time that Lee sort of went for it, really, because the problem we've got as well. You only got literally a handful of drivers who are prepared to take the race to Tom. You got Frank. He's regularly the one guy who'll give him a lot of stick if he can in a race, and Lee here and there. But many of the others aren't really challenging him. And I think a lot of the other problem is, and I think a lot of people say this, is that they don't want the damage. I mean, that's the thing, the damage they're getting from this shootout, because it's a lot of hard racing. You know, whereas for Tom, it's not a problem, is it? Because he can fix his car during the week, and he's back up and running, and everything's great. But it's not the same for everyone. So it's, yeah, if you, like you say, if you could then just get through each round and then start again from naught or whatever, to try and get this series exciting again, because that's the thing. Yeah. Oh, do you hear? Got Siri just come up on my computer for some reason. So, do you ever get that? Actually, I don't know if you're on a Mac, you'll get, or on your phone, suddenly Siri, who you sometimes ask questions, you know, where something is, will just pop up out of nowhere and start trying to answer a question that you haven't asked. It's just very strange. Anyway, getting back to the point.
But does it know the answer to the shootout?
Yes, exactly. That's one thing I should have asked, actually. Yeah, I might do that actually next time. But
I mean, let's be honest. When they first brought it in, you know, there's been some bloody good shootout finals. You know, at the end of the day, at Bellevue, you know, there was a couple of crackers. Even when young Stewart came to win it, Dan Johnson, you know,
Speaky as well.
There has been some, but it just it needs tweaking in some kind of way now. It's done its time, I think.
Yeah, I mean, often through the ages we've had tweaks to it, haven't we? We had the national series, then got turned into the shootout, and then, like you say, they've changed things and made the finale double points, whatever. And it's just it just needs more changes to it.
Somebody mentioned that possibly bringing back the Jokers where you get double points, but I didn't think that worked at all. I didn't think that worked. So I wouldn't like to see that. Just some more cars in it. Like I say, you're talking about anybody giving Tom a run for his money. Well, Craig and Ryan have been possibly, and Lee, fair to Lee, again, he's been up there.
Yeah.
But so if we have a few more cars in it, seeding a few of the drivers who have performed well over the last 2 or 3 years, get 20 cars in it, and always start the highest point scorer at the back. I don't know. It's great getting the kids involved with the draw and things like that, drawing for the positions in the heats. But when Tom gets drawn at the front, or whoever's leading at the time, I'm not just picking on Tom because he's the top at the moment. But if he gets drawn at the front of his heat, then to me that's the complete opposite to what stock cars is about. The stock car racing is about the fastest and at the back. So
it's the handicap system.
Handicap system. Exactly.
Just like in horse racing, the more better the horse, the more weight you have to carry, and that's in handicaps, and that's what it should be in stock cars as well. The better you are, the further back you start.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So right. Well, okay. Well, I think we all agreed it does need changing. How that will happen, obviously, it all depends on the BSCDA and Guy Parker in particular, because it's his baby after all. He sort of created it in the first place, so it's whether or not he's sort of up for sort of making some changes to it, because there's so many people are talking about it, whether it's drivers.
I think everybody,
everybody's saying it needs
fans, drivers, promote. Everybody is saying, great idea, keeps the end of the season going, but let's tweak it to make it a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, make it a bit more exciting. Exactly. Okay. All right. Well, our second topic is the World Final weekend at Northampton, and how we thought it all went. To my mind, I didn't go on the Friday, but I went on obviously for the World Final itself, and I wasn't there on the Sunday. But overall, from what I would say it was a great success all round. I mean, I just think Dean Wood just did an unbelievable job getting that place ready in time. I think a lot of people thought, I think you did at some point, Colin, when you'd been there a few weeks before, thought there's no way he's going to get this place ready, but he did, and this is him in a nutshell, though, isn't it? Having got to know Dean quite well over the last few years, you give him a challenge and people tell him that it can't be done, he will do his absolute utmost to prove everyone wrong, and I think he did. What do you think then, Ian?
I called in at Northampton the week before because I was going away, and Dean kindly said I could drop my caravan down there. And I went in the place and I felt for him because I was convinced that, you know, it wasn't going to happen. I thought the Friday night, I thought was fantastic. The Dutch, the atmosphere, the racing. I thought the racing was top draw, to be honest. Some real good stock car racing. The World Final itself, you know, the Saturday, I thought it was pretty good. You know, the race itself, you can't control that really. No. It is the way it is. You know, unlucky for Lee, brilliant for Tom. I thought the presentation just before it dragged a little bit with all the stuff on the middle. I like the idea of having the cars on the middle and the people coming on.
Yeah.
But I just think it just sort of dragged a little bit. But, you know, I thought they did a brilliant show. I thought the gantry I know they use it for the hot rods and whatever it is, but the gantry above where the drivers come on with the smoke and, you know, the fireworks. And as Tom came across the line and they had the repeating fireworks down the fence.
That was good, that.
I thought it just needed to be a bit darker, really, because it'd have really given it a bit. And Sunday was just Sunday was Sunday, but I think everybody took it in good spirits because they'd enjoyed what they'd had. And, you know, there was obviously, you know, Neil, I was helping out there behind the scenes and that. And, you know, everybody worked so hard that weekend. And just Sunday, there was just nothing you could do about it. And, you know, we just kept saying to Andy Hankey, the commentator, just keep people informed, tell them, you know, what you're trying to do, and that way you'll keep them on side. And I think they did. So all in all, I thought it was, you know, a really good weekend. I thought it was a good World Final experience.
Well said. What do you think then, Colin?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic weekend. You got to say that the Dutch coming over in the numbers they did enhanced the World Final, not just on the Friday night, which was fantastic. Racing reminded you a little bit of the field racing where the drivers they just drive with their foot on the gas pedal, and so it was a good night on the Friday. But the atmosphere, we think the Dutch guy who finished third, Weber de Vries, when he went round on the victory lap, he was getting cheers from all the Dutch fans, and it just made it a special occasion. It was a good weekend, and like I say, I was there a couple of weeks beforehand, and I thought Dean's gonna have to work hard, and he did. And same on the Sunday when the rain come down, Dean was the first one to say, right, we're going racing again, and he worked his tail off to get that track back into some sort of condition to race, and we got the didn't quite finish it all off because it was just a bit too much, but we got the final in. So he done a fantastic job there. It's I said just enhanced by the Dutch people. I know for some reason they just bring an extra element to big meetings like that, and the number that come over, what 50 odd drivers in the F1s. We had drivers come over in the saloons just for the Friday night, some for the F2s on the Sunday.
I had to park them all up.
Yeah. But it was a good weekend. To say that the World Final race itself, we can discuss the actual ins and outs of racing, but it was unfortunate. There was a big pile up at the start. Finnegan, with the damage he got, I have no idea how he got back into the race.
No, I saw that. I was watching that. Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic for that. The effort they done on that. So it may have taken one or two. I mean, you got Matt flipping it over, and when his mechanic asked him how much oil to put in back in the engine, the answer was a flipping lot.
Or words to that effect.
But for Matt to get back out and race without the wing and do quite well, he was up there at the start. Yeah. You just wonder what would have happened had like Lee, Craig, Tom, Matt all been that pipe hadn't happened and they're all racing each other. It might have been a different race. But, it's a good weekend. Good weekend though. Good weekend.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I wish I could have gone on the Friday because having seeing all the reactions to that night's race, and the racing sounded like it was superb. The atmosphere was phenomenal, and it's all like I said, because the Dutch bring an atmosphere with them. It's a party. They absolutely love their racing, and they just put on a brilliant show. And it's one of the race meetings of the year, I think, by the sounds of it. And like I said about the world.
Did you go in the parking and see the trailer that they brought across?
No, I didn't see that.
Which is like a castle with a barbecue. Oh man, you got to see it.
Really?
Me and the missus went on there and we were partying with them all. Big table down the middle. It's got a smoker at one end for fish, and they were doing barbecues and beers. And it's this unit, and it comes and it all folds out. And they turned up with it. We didn't know it were coming, and Ty says to us, "Oh, can we park this?" And we're like, "Well, what is it?" He said, "It's, tells us what it does. It does food and drinks." And it's like, "No, you can't just turn up and start selling food and drink. We've got people sorted." He goes, "Oh, no, we just give it away."
Oh, amazing.
So they went, "Well, yeah, but you're going to have to go in the camping." And it was brilliant. And when Colin goes on about and cheering and everything, Pascal Speck, who's, very popular, obviously.
Yeah.
When, for him to get a win, and the noise that was made when he got his win, just probably one of the best meetings of the year, really.
Yeah, it sounds it, doesn't it? Yeah, I mean, it was it sounded fantastic. And also it's at night as well, so that makes it great and gives it that atmosphere. But I mean, on the Saturday, I mean, it was of course you had this incredible hot. It was a hot day, wasn't it? I mean, hot weekend really up until the Sunday. But it was pretty well organised. I love the fact having like you said, all the cars out on the middle and letting people come out and meet the drivers and all that stuff. That was fantastic. That it worked well. And it looked good. So I was up on a gantry near where the steward's room was, and you could see down. It just looked a great sight, and the weather was good. Probably too good in a lot of ways. But that was the other thing with Dean. I think everybody would have been really concerned. A hot day on show doesn't always go down mix very well. But he controlled that track superbly well throughout the day, I thought. And even apart from perhaps the Constellation Semi was too wet at the start, maybe they could have raced another heat before they'd done the Constellation race, because I know one or two drivers weren't particularly happy. I think Paul Harrison was pretty upset with the conditions in that race, because the track was really slippy. But for the World Final itself, the track was absolutely mint. It was perfect. And like I say, it's so unfortunate. No, I predicted it at the beginning. I did a bit with David Addison on Speedworth TV, and I've said that I thought there's almost inevitability that there's going to be a first bend pile up, because in every World Final there always is. Yeah. I mean, I can't remember the last time there wasn't one. There's always a pile up the first bend. There's always a restart, and it was unfortunate for. Sorry, go on.
One of the things that a lot of people won't realise is, obviously, Dean was paranoid about dust, etc. So he actually had shipped in tankers full of water, right, which they put in the centre, in the tanks where the rainwater usually goes to. And that is what caused the problem on Sunday, was they were already full of water.
Was it full of water? Yeah, of course.
So the water he'd actually had to ship in and pay for, he ended up getting the tractor on there, sucking it out, and dumping it in the field next door.
My
that
goodness.
Was part of the problem for the drainage. He'd got that much water. He hadn't used as much as he'd expected, but they'd got that much water stored on site.
Yeah. So it flooded
underground. And so all the water, when that stupid rain came, he had nowhere to go. And so he's having to pump out water that he's paid for.
Good grief, unbelievable that. It's just unlucky though, isn't it? I mean, he's always had a bit of bad luck when it comes to these deluges, But and the other thing I was going to say with when we had the stoppage, obviously Matt, I spoke to Matt afterwards. I mean, if there's no unluckier driver than him on the grid. I mean, if he didn't have bad luck, he'd have no luck at all. It was just, even he almost predicted what he said. What's going to happen this time? He's getting to the stage now where he gets really stressed out. Yeah, he's getting really stressed out before the start because expecting something to happen, like it did at Mildenhall, and the same, in the World Final, rolls over, just, and it writes off his race almost, and then even then he through the race, he gallantly, ploughed on and almost looked up for a podium, and then gets a flat tire, with about a lap or two to go, finishes fourth. I mean, just couldn't make it up. It's just he was so desperately unlucky. But for all of that, the other thing I quite liked, if you like, if you can have a complete restart, obviously it creates a delay, but having the cars on the centre and having to get the mechanics and everything to work on the cars actually in the centre, I thought was really good, because you could watch what was going on. And it was like you said, as Colin said, I was watching Craig Finnegan and I thought, I said to someone else, I just don't see he's not going to do this. This car's in bits, and he's got about 5 minutes left to go, and 1 minute, but he managed to get that car out there, and it was just a remarkable, turnaround. That, and that was fantastic. So I enjoyed that side of it as well. Just there was a bit of jeopardy involved, and it meant it kept people's interest for a bit. But like you said, with the race itself, you can't do anything about control a race. Like last year was a phenomenal race, and everybody thought it was going to be particularly average because it was Ipswich. And then this year we thought, this could be a quite exciting finish, and it didn't turn out that way. But that's just the nature of the racing, isn't it? You can't.
But also, if you look further back, I'll go back to the Dutch guy at Wiebe de Vries again. I think he got up to third or fourth, got taken out, went to the back of the pack and fought his way back through to third again.
So amazing performance.
Not necessarily. And also, I think he was driving a car with a Dodge engine, which, when was the last time a non-Chevy engine featured on a podium?
Because that's the thing with the Dutch guys, they don't all race in Chevys, do they? They have all sorts of pieces of kit underneath the bonnet. A Dodge engine.
Paul
that's fantastic.
Said to me, after they'd been out there, and he says to me, he says, "I'm not going out again." He says, "Them Dutchies, they're just mad." He said, they just put the foot down. He said, "It's
crazy.
It's crazy fantastic out there." Yeah,
they're brilliant, though, aren't they? They are brilliant. Yeah. And the thing is, I mean, the racing, the meeting was a bit. Again, there was a lot of stoppages and things, but that's just the nature of it. But some of the racing, I mean, Ryan was he on it or what throughout that night? He was blindingly quick, and he was unstoppable, really, and that was entertaining to watch. But but overall, like we say, I think it was a great weekend, a great advert for the sport, and absolutely, sort of take the hat off to Dean for turning that around in such a short space of time, and come up with a brilliant 3 days of stock car racing. It's fantastic. So next up on the topics, number 3, the World Final weekend next year's at Skegness, and it includes the World Masters. Now this is a turnaround from previous years, and I think we all would agree that is a turn for the better. Would you think? You'd agree, I'd imagine, wouldn't you, Ian?
Yeah. The thing is, what people don't realise is that the World Masters, there was a tie-in with the Haynes family.
Yeah.
And so it had to be at Northampton. Yeah. Because of the Haynes family. Now that Dean owns it, he can actually decide if he wants to do a deal with Rob for it or whatever. I mean, we've all known it, particularly when you have like an Ipswich and then you go into Northampton, or the Northampton they had the year Paul Harrison won it, to me, sort of set the standard. And once those that tasted that thought, why aren't we doing this every year? But there was reasons behind. But I think next year, whether I think you'll get quite a lot of Dutch across, because you will fans. I'm not so sure about the drivers, but because there's the chance of 3 days at one track, all tarmac, you're probably going to get better. The World Masters will definitely be better attended than it would have been if it was a tarmac world and then a shale the day after. I don't think you're going to get 50 odd, but I think you're going to get enough to put on, possibly, saloons and maybe whites and yellow F1s mixed with Dutchies or something like that. But 3 days at the same place. You know, times are hard, to be honest. And I'll say that as well about the World Final this year. I thought Dean's pricing was excellent. For your 3-day ticket. I thought it was exceptionally good. But what you've got to look at is times are going to be harder again next year. And people, what they look at, no matter what the ticket price is, they look at 1 lot of diesel or 1 lot of petrol in the car. That's what they're like. Okay, they might be spending more on a hotel, so at Skeggy if they can get one in the summer. But there's the camping and everything, and that's what I think is the benefit of having it all at the one stadium. And I'm really pleased that that they've managed to do it. I think it'll be a blinder.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah,
I
mean, you're talking about being harder to get from. The last meeting at Kings Lynn, when they had it at Kings Lynn and Northampton the next day, it was actually quite tough to get from Kings Lynn to Northampton in time for the start. But it's also quite physically tiring now. I would find it difficult to go here, there, and everywhere in 3 days. Being in one place makes it a lot easier physically. I'm getting a bit old now for all this travelling around.
He says going to Holland every other week.
You don't see me the rest of the week. I'm sleeping at work.
Yeah. But just on that, Colin, one of the things is what I found with it particularly, the Saturday night, people don't celebrate and party as much because a lot of the drivers go, right, we'll shoot across to Northampton so we're there ready for the morning. Yeah. So you miss the after party in the bar type of thing.
Yeah, as we said before, the sport is about not just what happens on the track, it's the social side that goes with it. And when you are having to leave early in the morning to get to another track, it does take that away from it. Yeah. And it is getting harder and harder to travel around. So people would choose to go to one or other of the meetings. So they're more likely to go to the World Final on Saturday night and skip the Sunday if it was at a different track. But being all together at one place is a hell of a lot better for everybody. So yeah, it's a great idea. As for the Friday, there's not quite so many Dutch tarmac drivers, so you're not going to get as many over. But why not just open it to everybody, the UK F1s? And if you want to race, if you're in the World Final and you want to race on Friday, race on Friday. I remember somebody asking Stuart Smith why he raced at Long Eaton on a Friday and there was a World Final on the Saturday. He said, well, because there's a meeting on. If I bend it, I can fix it. So it's probably the cars are not quite so easy to work on these days. But
I think the other thing is the 7-day knockout rule, though, as well, Colin. I think drivers do think about that. But I think maybe not the World Finals, but I think any non-qualifiers should be more than welcome to race on the Friday.
Yeah,
absolutely right.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Yeah, I think as well, like you said about the being tiring. I mean, it's for the drivers and the mechanics and the families of all those that are competing. I mean, having to then, especially if you got damage and then you're gonna load the car up and then you've got, like you say, lug down to Northampton from Skegness or whatever the following day. I think it's too much. Especially if it's I think last time it was there was there was an accident on the way out on the way home, and so people were stuck in traffic for hours on end just trying to get from Skegness down to Northampton. But like you say, having to move after a great night's racing and then not being able to sort of party through the night or whatever, so it does put a bit of a dampener on it, really. So it is so vital to have a long weekend's racing at one venue. I mean, it's going to be a bit more difficult possibly at I don't know when Bradford or how it work there, but it's the way forward. And like I said, I mean, Dean's hands were tied with how World Masters is arranged now. But now he owns the venue. He can like I say, he can do his bidding with whoever's got the World Final, and we can get that Masters at the same track. So it's a fantastic move. That's brilliant. So yeah. Well, I think we'll agree again.
Thumbs up.
Disagree on something. Yeah. I think we'll later on, hopefully, but we'll see. Right, next one. I think I've got my glasses on, so I can't see. Right, yes. Oh, yeah, there we go. It's the Gala meeting, and British Touring Car Invitational Trophy. So, yes, as you know, I've got involved quite a bit with the touring car boys last year. It's all down to the fact that Paul O'Neill, who used to race and is now a commentator at ITV, went to King's Lynn last year with a mate of his. Never been to stock car meeting before, and been on Shale as well. King's Lynn being fast, absolutely blew him away, and he wanted to have it, and he fancied having a go. And Paul Hines, who's always an opportunist in these situations, he saw this on Twitter and said, "Well, you can have a go in my car if you want." And then I got in touch with Paul O'Neill because I happened to still have his number in my old address book from 20 years ago when I was an editor at Motorsport News, or Motoring News it was then. And so I rang him up out of the blue, and he still had the same number, and we got to cut a long story short, we got this thing together. We managed to organise all these drivers to come along and take part, and it was in a very short space of time, and in about 4 weeks we had to get it done, and I think it was fantastic. It all went absolutely according to plan. There was always a worry that it might not quite work out. There were one or two things which nearly didn't happen with Rick Collard, who suddenly didn't have a car to drive as they were about to come out onto the parade lap. And we managed to get him in one, even though he was so small he couldn't reach the pedals or almost look over the steering wheel. And we had to stuff Matt Newson's overalls under his bum so he could see over. And he was just unbelievable. He'd never sat in a car before. He went out and led most of it and nearly won the damn thing. He was just amazing. So anyway, we're going to be doing this again, hopefully this year. We've only got about 3 or 4 weeks to go before it is the Gala meeting. I know we've got about eight of the guys who did it last year want to do it again. We've got 1 or 2 others that are interested, so we can try and see what we can do. But the one slight spanner in the works, of course, is the fact that old Paul had a really nasty shunt at the weekend at King's Lynn, and he's the guy who sort of helps organise all the cars. So I'm hoping he's going to be fit enough in the coming weeks to try and get back, get involved in trying to get that all done. So I'm hoping we can get it worked out. I haven't even spoken to Rob Speak to see whether it's okay to do it again this year. I had to ring you up last year to say, oh, by the way, we're looking at doing this, and hopefully it'll all work out all right. But it should be a good weekend, a good night. It was last year.
Yeah, it was a fantastic night last year, and it also brought some fans in who were touring car fans.
Absolutely,
to watch that car racing. So I think if it's going ahead, this hopefully get it sort of agreed and get a little bit more publicity for it. So I think it'll bring more people into the meeting. I think also the touring car race, it probably only 12 laps last time. Give them a few more laps. Give them 16 laps or whatever. Give them a few more.
Proper run, yeah.
Proper run. But yeah, I thought, and the way they adapted to the cars was pretty impressive. Pretty impressive.
Well, good.
Yeah,
good.
They're on the pace. It was good to see. I'm looking forward to it again.
Yeah, good. Were you there that night, Ian, as well? Did you go?
No, I wasn't. No. I followed the build up and everything. Obviously watched all the BSCDA footage as well. But can only be positive for it. We many years ago we did a similar thing. I think you were involved, Neil. We had Tim Harvey, Parrish.
That's right. Oh, well, I was involved with that. Yeah, that was in Coventry, wasn't it? Yeah.
Vicky Butler Henderson rolled, didn't she?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
In Gary Lenton's car.
That's
but
it.
That was sort of almost a missed opportunity.
It was. Yeah.
Last year's not a missed opportunity. Last year, it all happened too quick. But now people know about it. If it can go ahead again, only positive for the job. And they, to be fair to those guys, none of them rubbished it. None of them, but I think people have this misconception about a lot of the touring guys. They think that they're up there on a different plateau, sort of, along with the likes of Lewis Hamilton and co. But the majority of these guys are just working guys that race on a weekend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get the odd 1 or 2. But no, I thought it was brilliant. Without watching the racing, just seeing the publicity side of it, I thought it came across really well.
Yeah, I was very excited. It's probably one of the most satisfying things excuse me, I've been involved in actually with sport, particularly as it was had to happen in such a short space of time. But I mean, I've got to know the lads pretty well, and they are a top bunch. They are a really good fun bunch. We've got this WhatsApp group. They're all, let's call it the BriSCA Gala meeting WhatsApp group. It's been going there for over a year, and they're hilarious. And they're real good. But they're close friends. They all get on really well, and they stay over at Butlins and they go out and party after the meeting. They're up all night, dancing and mucking about and getting drunk and whatever, and having a thoroughly good time. So they enjoyed doing a bit of racing. They got such a buzz out of driving those cars as well. I mean, they were really impressed by our tarmac cars, and so. It's like I say, it's hopefully it'll be quite positive. And what I'm going to try and do a bit more is get the touring car fans involved. I've got, I did a bit of work last year to getting some publicity through their one of their fan base, their Facebook pages, and got a lot of interest that way. If we can get more and more of them to come along, we'll try and see if we can get some crossover with, get some publicity via their sport, but we'll see. I mean, hopefully we'll do this regularly each year. There's no reason why we couldn't.
I think they enjoyed
a bit more.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
I think they enjoyed the rest of the meeting, and it would be good to get
in the bar.
Yeah, no, but like they're saying, they're watching the minis and kind of think, are these youngsters in these things? They were kind of overwhelmed, I think, by that, and
they're impressed with them. They want to actually. They want to put some money behind a mini stock race as well. I think they want to give something back. They said they want to sort of, appreciate the fact that our drivers are giving their cars for nothing, basically, just for the fun of it. So they want to give something back, and we suggested maybe the mini stocks final, sort of sponsoring that or something, and giving some trophies and whatever. It'd be great for the youngsters as well.
What would be nice if it could be worked out that, say, the top three or in the mini stocks final get invited to the touring car press day, or if that's during the school day, it might not be possible. But maybe a meeting at Donington.
I think it would be cool. I think there'd be a few sick notes going in.
Of course they will.
Yeah. But wouldn't it be great? And it would be great for both sports then. Both sides can get a bit of publicity out of it. Get the next generation of stock cars or touring car drivers getting together. Yeah.
I know it's totally different, but Paul Hines has always offered the winner of our Gold Top a practice day in his car. And last year, Ricky Wilson did the same. And so they take the car to Skegness and they invite our Gold Top champion to have a go out in it. And anything between formulas and sports, etc., is just brilliant. Our guys, the guy who did it, Colin, he's an ex-banger racer anyway. He can drive, but he was bloody impressive in Ricky's car. But he loved it, and he's then saying, right, well, I'm gonna have to get on to Matt Newsom because he lives near down Kings Lynn, so he wants to hire for Kings Lynn. So it puts you don't know what these sort of things can lead on to, do you?
No, we are at the bottom of it, we're all racing fans. It doesn't matter whether it's stock cars, touring cars, whatever. We love racing, and to get sort of the crossover and people involved in a different formula, it's got to be good. I think it's positive for everybody. Yeah.
Well, hopefully it should all come together. I'll know in the next few weeks. Well, we only got 3.5 weeks before the Gala meeting, so I've got to get cracking and see who we can get to take part.
Because you have some old ASCAR drivers. That guy speaking was in one.
Rob speaking.
Don't put him out there with the
Jesus. So there you go. That's anyway. That's coming up on November the 18th. So if you weren't planning to go to the Gala meeting, I think there's a good reason to go now. Excuse me. So next then, okay, number 5 on our Talking Stox debate. Driver of the year. I won't say who I think the driver of the year. I was thinking, we'll see what everybody else says first before I even change my mind. So, okay, Colin, if you had to name your driver of the year,
if I had to name one driver, it's got to be Tom Harris. got to be Tom Harris.
This could be quite short, this question.
Yeah. So I put 3 or 4 other drivers down. I put Craig, I put Lee, Orion. They've all done really well, but Tom is just, at the moment, it's his time. Like it was Stuart Smith's time years ago, and John Lund had his time, and Frankie Wayman had his time, when they were just almost a class above everybody else. You can say what you like about Tom. He's got the backing, but you still have to have the talent to drive it. You can put me in that car. I'll do quite well with it, but I'll be nowhere near as good as Tom is. He's just got something at the moment, a little bit extra than everybody else. Whether it's the fact he's been to America and learned a lot more different styles of driving. To me, he does drive differently to everybody else, and I think that is a benefit he's got from going to America. He's learned a bit more setup, and you can't unlearn things. So once you learn stuff, it's just at the moment, it's just got a little bit above everybody else. And yeah, I can't really see anybody else being coming close this season. Well, maybe Ryan did, but but Tom's just got the edge for me.
Yeah, Ian.
Yeah, Tom. One of the things Colin touched on it there. I think both Ryan and Tom have really benefited from the racing in America.
Yeah, I could agree more.
It's one of those things, they think they're going fast over here, then they race over there, and it is fast. They come back here, and it's almost like slow motion, and I think, as well as the setup and everything else, I think they've just learned to read a track, to look for the grip, and both Tom and Ryan just have extreme confidence in their cars. But no, for me, hands down, it's got to be Tom. Budget doesn't come into it, like Colin said. It doesn't matter how much money you've got, you still got to be able to drive it. And boy, he can drive.
No, I can agree more with any of that. I mean, it's just, unquestionably, Tom Harris is driver of the year, as he has been for the last 2 or 3 years, 3 or 4 even. He's like Colin said, it's his time. He's all drivers have an era, don't they? And this is the Tom Harris era, and I mean, he's won the world, the European, and the national. Well, he hasn't won the national project. He's almost certain to win the national points unless something dramatic happens in the next 2 or 3 weeks, and this podcast would be completely out of date if that happens. But yeah, he's an exceptional driver, and like I say, he drives differently from all the others on, and as does Ryan on Shale. The two of them are just leap years ahead of everyone else on Shale at the moment, and it must be due partly or considerably to their experiences in America, because they learn so much out there and gain all sorts of new ideas and on how to build their cars, because don't forget they build their own cars and they're still they're just great engineers and they're great drivers, and yeah, he's just been fantastic, Tom, and more power to his elbow. He's I can't see anyone getting near him next year unless Ryan does maybe do a whole season, but you never know. With him, he's probably more likely to do more in America. I know Tom wants to do more in America, but it's just finding the time and the opportunities. But Tom Harris, undoubtedly driver of the year. So what the next one? Promoter of the year. Okay, I'll hand that back to Ian. Who's your promoter of the year? I think we might all be unanimous on this as well.
Well, you could say Dean, with what's happened with the world final and everything, the effort that he's put in at the stadium there, it's, they've done a fantastic job. The guys up at Your Stocks, they keep putting on, trying to do extra stuff, stuff before the meeting, pre-meeting entertainment, extra prize funding. They did a whites and yellows thing the other week, so they're doing it. Rob is just ploughing on forward with his ideas at Skegness. So I think it's very difficult, to be honest. I think obviously I have a soft spot for Odsal. I know Graham and Russell well. You know, obviously I get on really well with Rob. We do a lot with Rob, and I think Skegness is just a fantastic place now. You know, it's even down to the fact that he's gone and bought his own monster truck, and you know, he must be some kind of control freak, Rob, because he wants to do the jumps. You know, he can hardly walk, but he still wants to jump in the monster truck. And,
that's him in it, is it? Yeah, he's in it. Absolute.
But to be honest, I'm gonna go for Dean Woods. You know, purely and simply for the reason that he had the kahunas to buy the place, and then he had the kahunas to put in what he's putting in, and he's still putting in. Because if you look this week, you see the grandstands going.
Yeah, saw that.
So to me, I'm actually have to say that I think that I'm seeing Rob next week as well. But no, I just
he won't.
It's got to be Dean this year. I think the effort that he's put in, not just there, you know, just apparently the Banger World the other week at Ipswich was just unbelievable.
Absolutely ran that place was.
Yeah, so looking at it as a whole, but I think just purely for the effort that's gone into Northampton, for me, it's Dean.
Yeah. Colin?
Can't really put much more than what Ian just said there, because he's really covered it pretty much as I was going to say.
Sorry, mate.
That's why I said I thought it might be unanimous.
Yeah. So, but I'm going to sit on the fence a little bit, and so I haven't actually got one promoter of the year. I think they've all done a great job. And you just think about last weekend at Kings Lynn.
Yeah.
Quite easy, they could have called that meeting off. And,
but
they put a hell of an effort in to get that track ready for Sunday, and it was in tip-top conditions. A darn good track it was, and some good racing. So I think all the promoters have actually upped their game a little bit this last couple of years. Like I say, what's happening at Bradford or Odsal to anybody north of the Watford Gap, they're putting great effort there. That the whites and yellows are turning up to kind of support them as well. The same at Kings Lynn, and like I said, look what's happening at Skegness, fantastic, and Northampton. So I think they've all done a darn good job, and it's a job that we all kind of got our ideas what we would do, but we don't actually go out and do it. They're the ones who put their names on the posters, and they're the ones who are actually going out there doing the work. It's not something I would like to do, and they've all done a darn good job, I think, in very difficult times we are at the minute.
Yeah, perfectly well said, mate. Yeah, I mean, like you said, they've all done superbly this year. I think, you know, there's a newfound almost confidence amongst them all. That I think a lot of it is that they're working together more this now, rather than being individuals. There seems to be a bit more, I don't know, connection between all the different promoters, and I think that's helping a bit. But I'm going to go with what Ian said, and I'm going to go for this man as promoter of the year. I think he's just done an exceptional job in very, very difficult circumstances to get that place, up and running in the way he's done it, and to turn that around from, just a few months, just exceptional, really. And like I said, not just there at Milton Hall, he did a cracking good job at Milton Hall for the European as well. I thought that was a good. Was that 3 days as well? Was that a 3-day meeting at European, or was that 2?
2 days.
2 days. Well, it was 2 days. God, that's wrong.
Well,
yeah,
it was
great.
You know how stubborn Dean can be. We all know how stubborn Dean can be. I think what we should all do is we should all just turn around and say to him, Dean, whatever you do, don't turn Northampton back into tarmac.
Yeah, because then if you say that, that's the next thing he would try and bloody do, I expect. But no, God, dear. God, it's just amazing though where the track is now compared to that first meeting when he had turned it to shale. Well, it wasn't really shale then, was it? It was all brick dust and clay and God knows what it was, that first meeting when it all went belly up. And he was under huge pressure, you know, having made that decision to turn that track, you know, from tarmac, and you know, but he just never gives up. He never gives up on what he wants to do, and it's taken him a few years to get there, but he's done it. And I know he owns it now, so he can, you know, he can do what he wants with it, and that, which is fantastic. So yeah, fair play to him. He's had a, you know, they're all, like I said, you know, all the promoters have done a fantastic job, but I think, you know, for this year, you know, for what he's done, Dean, you know, he does deserve all the accolades, really. Right. So where we are, track of the year. All right, this is done. All right. What we're going to go with track of the year. Might all have different answers for this one, maybe not. I don't know. Right, and Ian, track of the year.
Again, the aforementioned that we've said, you know, Odsal. I just love Odsal. You know, I know it creates a lot of carnage and damage, unfortunately, and you know, they've not had the best of luck with the weather, but I just think the racing there is, and the atmosphere is something else. Again, being with Northampton, but actually for me, I'm going with Skegness on this one. I think
it's all right. Okay.
I think Skegness is just all round for everything, catering, and I've got my not just Formula One glasses on here, really, in a way. You know, I think the fact that, you know, he's spent all that money, the track as a whole, everything about it, the sign outside, everything like that. That's what makes it, you know, the atmosphere in there, you know, with the holiday makers as well as the stock car fans. So for me, I just think it's this year. We'll see what Dean finishes up now when he gets his grandstand finish and everything. But for me, it's Skegness. Closely followed, I must admit, by Kings Lynn as far as track prep and everything else goes. So, you know, they've all got the bonuses, but I'm going with Skegness.
Thank you, Dave. Colin.
You've been reading my notes, Ian.
Great minds, Colin.
Yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed, like I say, racing at Bradford. I love it. I think it's fantastic racing. It's a big track that, you know, probably the biggest we've got by a long way, I should imagine, nowadays. It's fast, and it's always something going on there. Like I said, when crashes happen, they happen quite big there. That's so I love that. Kings Lynn's always put on some fantastic racing, but I did actually go for Skegness because I think it's the crowds and the car counts and the quality of the racing. Everyone says about tarmac racing, but that was the last meeting. There was fantastic. With Frank and Tom and going, it was good racing. And if the World Finals would have been like that next year, we're in for a cracker. So I did actually go for Skegness because I thought that the racing has been top notch all season. I've not seen a bad meeting there.
Yeah. Well, I'm going for Skegness as well, to be honest. Yeah, I can't argue with you. I mean, it's. Yeah, I mean they are lucky because they have they have their double headers, and that obviously works. And I think the drivers enjoy double headers, fans enjoy double headers. The venue, the way he's putting it together it's just come together so well, and he's got, you know, just facilities are great. You know, the action's good. You've got Richard Coletta on the infield. He's always great entertainer and, you know, great communicator on the centre there as well. And it's just. Yeah, it's just a great place, and the sign is just fantastic. That wonderful sign outside is just genius. That, and yeah, but I think I'd go with Northampton as a go. I'd give that second place, and I'm not sure I'd go with third, but yeah, maybe Bradford perhaps, but. Yeah, but I go with Skegness too. Just think he's had a great year, and the racing and on tarmac racing there always is great. There's very rarely a dull meeting, and it also helps the fact that Speaky races there as well. So you know, that adds to it, and he usually livens things up a fair bit. So yeah,
what
I think we'll agree again.
He races the monster truck. He does the monster truck. He races the car. He cleans the toilets. He
does everything. I know.
Yeah.
He can't stop. Whenever I ring him up, he's always outside doing something, banging, crashing, mending a fence, or doing something or other. But yeah, but that, I think we'll agree again. Right? Okay. One of us got to come up with a different one sooner or later. I'll have a look. We can't all be in unison here. Okay, this is a different one. Race of the year. All right. Colin, what's your race of the year?
The race of the year.
Hard one, this one.
I think the one that stands out more in my memory is the British at Hennesford. It was just a great finish. And the racing, I love Hennesford. It's again another fast track, another old styles track where the racing's fast.
Good viewing facility as well. Always see it
viewing.
really well.
And despite what people think, there is always a lot of action, and it was proven this year with the finish there with Catherine and Ryan and Finn coming through to win was just fantastic to see somebody different winning a race, and it was a great race, and that one sticks out in my mind. Sometimes I can't remember where I was yesterday, so for a race to stick out in my mind for a few months, it has to have been a good one, and that's my race of the year.
Ian.
I haven't done hardly any meetings this year, so I haven't seen a lot of racing. I've seen highlights and various stuff. Colin mentioned it earlier, actually, at Skegness the other week with Frank and Tom knocking 7 bells out of each other, but all good, clean. As daft as it sounds, Rob in Venray, he was on it for that final, wasn't he? He was proper on it.
He wanted that one.
The what?
He wanted that one, didn't he?
Oh, didn't he just? But
I wish I'd seen that. Never saw that.
That was like top. That was Rob 25 years ago. Do you know what I mean? It really was. Like you said again there, Colin. I think the Catherine Harris. What a race she did! What a race she drove there in that British. Fantastic opportunist moment for young Finn, who I highly rate. But I'm actually going to go with Robert Venray as my race.
We got a different answer. That's fantastic. We got the first one. Yeah, we all agree on everything else, and then we suddenly got a different answer. Fantastic. I'm really pleased you gone for Rob. I've not even seen the race, sadly, so I can't comment on it. All I know that he drove superbly, but I'm going to be going for the British as well because I didn't go, but I watched it all back, and that was just a sensational race. I just say we should have been there for that because Catherine, she just, I feel for her because she beat herself up a lot for a long time after that because she, I think Tom didn't help because he told her what she should have done. He reckons she should have gone for Ryan a few laps earlier rather than waiting for the last lap. But yeah, it was just a sensational finish and dramatic, scenes. And we managed to get that picture of Paul's in the Express because it was there we go. It was just look at that, unbelievable. Yeah, what's her nickname? Rev, is it, or the Rev? They call her Rev. Yeah. Oh, I call her Miss Box Office. I think she's these days. I think she's coming on leaps and bounds as well as a driver. She's now back in Shale. She can do it on Shale a bit now. Like Bradford, she went pretty well, didn't she? I think. Was it Bradford?
She went going well. Yeah, she went going well at Bradford.
I think she's got get it together on Shale now. And, so she's done well, and that was just a superb, dramatic race, and got the crowd going, and it was just fantastic. So at least we got a couple of different answers for that one. So right, okay, that was race of the year. Right, young driver of the year. Who are we going to be going for? There's a few names that come to mind. What do you think? And Colin, what are you going for there? What are you going for? Not what you're going for.
It's a difficult one because there's quite a few good young drivers coming through. We just talked about Catherine, excellent drivers. Like I say, she's very disappointed at the British, but I managed to speak to her afterwards and told her that she was the one in the position to do it. Nobody else. There was 50 or 60 drivers there, but she was the one there in with a chance. So she's got to be proud of that. But yeah, she's had a good season and getting better. And like I say, there's a couple of outings on show this year, and she was starting to get the hang of it at Bradford, and she's looking on the pace. So, got to mention Henry Robson, who drove absolutely fantastic at King's Lynn last week. It's only his first season. I tend to forget that, his first full season, and he didn't move out of the way for anybody in the final day. He was up in third place until the last bend when Lee just kind of nudged him out of the third, but he didn't move over. He didn't mirror drive. And another driver who's caught my eye is Thomas Rogers on 269. He raced on tarmac, but he's been putting some darn good performances in as well. So that's there's a few, and you look into the V8 hot stocks. There's a lot of young drivers in that formula who are coming through. So maybe they'll come into F1s in the future. But I think there's a lot of good young drivers out there. So it's looking good.
Ian?
I think Colin were reading my notes that time.
Really?
Young Henry. He's picked up a couple of wins this season. The whites and yellows was a good one for him last weekend. He raced the karts a couple of times last year, and he had a win at Odsall, and he won at Northampton at our Gold Top meeting. I rate Henry. I think he's done very well. There's some, even like Hannah Andrews, who's in there, sort of the less higher profile people. But when you start looking, at the cutting edge, really, I suppose. It sounds daft, doesn't it? You don't class Phoebe Wayman as a youngster anymore, do you, really?
No.
What was she, the highest placed lady on the world final grid or whatever? But Finn Sargent, taking the British. But for me, I think the driver that has improved, and I think she just lacks belief in herself, and it's Catherine. I think she's got the ability. I just think she just lacks that little bit of self-belief. Maybe Tom could rub a bit of his confidence off onto her. But no, for me, it's Catherine at the minute. But what Colin said, in the V8s, young Thomas Brighton, who's a close friend of mine, and he raced cars and that. What a year that lad's having. His dad's still got his F1 sat in his garage.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's still sat there. But, in the ones, it's definitely Catherine for me.
Yeah, and for me too. She had a very good year. She's just, I think she's going to be turning into. I think she'll turn into a superstar really in the sport if she carries them on the trajectory she's going at the moment. She's just that performance over the British meeting, to be on pole and then nearly win the thing, and then she was the highest placed female driver on the grid for the world final as well. She drove brilliantly to get in the semi-final. She drove with her head. I think she finished 5th or whatever, and she's just maturing into into a great driver, and she knows how to use the front bumper as well. She's not scared to use it, and I think that's fantastic. We've had a lot of good female drivers in this last sort of 12 months or so. It's a shame. One of the ones who I particularly like, and I don't think we're going to probably see anymore, is Courtney Finnegan. I thought she was extremely talented, but obviously she had that hit at Ipswich that was a result of Ryan putting her in a bit too hard, and we probably won't see her race anymore, which is a real shame because she was a huge talent, I thought.
Yeah, well, she was out in Tom's car in practice at Skegness.
Oh, was she?
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So maybe she'll have to change her heart.
Hopefully that will. But I think Ian also made a good point about we forget that people like Joe Nichols, Frankie Wayne, Junior, Carl Gray, Finn. We've kind of almost
think them
older than they actually are because they've been driving since they were sort of 16, 17, and we kind of think they've been they're kind of veteran drivers, but they're still youngsters, and they're still
I know,
still doing well. So you do forget that there are quite a lot of young drivers out there who are pretty darn good. And when they come into the sport, they don't hang around. They move up the grades pretty quick.
They do. I'm trying to think this guy, the lads.
It's one of the things that you, as you get older, you sort of suddenly start noticing, because you've now got, you know, the micro F2s drive. They start at 7 years old. You know, so by the time they're 16 and going into a senior formula, some of these kids have done 9 years racing.
Amazing,
you know?
Isn't it?
So they do the micros until they're 11, then they do from 11 to 16 in the minis, or another junior formula, and then, you know, 4 years into an F1 career, and they're only 20 years old, but they've been racing for 9-10 years.
Yeah, exactly. Old hands, aren't they, already?
Yeah.
Tyrone Evans, that's the other one I was trying to think of. He's
the Evans
done well. Yeah. You know, good driver. I mean, there's one or two out there, you know, who can put it together. And interesting, actually, I think the under 25 championship Skegness could be quite a good race this year. So, I think, wasn't it Cargrave was unlucky last year? I think he was led to about last couple of laps and then the engine went or something. I can't remember, so it went wrong. But he's due. He's a good little driver too. I think he can put, when he's on it, he's good car. So there you go. I think for me, Catherine this year, we'll see how she carries on in the coming seasons. Right, can't remember where. I think the final topic is 2023 as a whole. And how do you rate the season as it's been this year compared to others? Either way.
Well, I think it's been a pretty good season, to be honest.
You're mute. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Can you hear me?
I
can't hear. What is it?
I can.
Hang on a minute.
What buttons have you pressed, Neil?
For some reason, I can't. Hang on a second.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear me? Or
we can hear you.
Yeah, I can't hear anybody. Unless these earphones have run out, I can't hear. Hang on. Are you back?
You're back.
Yeah, there you go. You're back. Right, go on. What did you say? So I couldn't hear a thing.
We were just talking about you, Neil, but don't worry about it.
Oh, yeah. That's fine. Never mind.
No, I think
at least someone is.
It's only one thing worse than being talked about, and that's not being talked about.
Exactly.
But I think it's been a good season, to be honest. It's had its ups and downs. I think the car counts are pretty good considering the times we're in. We're never going to get the car counts we used to have back in the 70s and 80s, and people have to realise that we are where we are. It doesn't. I was looking at a hot rod program from the mid 70s, and they had about 80 cars booked in for a Wimbledon meeting. So Formula One's is actually holding up pretty well. The racing has been pretty good. Okay, Tom's winning a fair percentage, but no more, probably less than Stuart Smith used to win, and people didn't moan about it then. I think the season's been pretty good, but we've got to be careful that we keep control of it and costs don't spiral out of control. People do moan about the cost of cars, but I've seen a couple on they've been for sale for like 10, 15,000, which in comparison for a race car isn't that much. So I don't think we're any more expensive than we used to be, but there are factors out of our control. Cost of parts in the motor trade in general is going up. Cost of tyres and getting bits for engines, they're all out of our control, but we've got to be careful that they don't have an impact on the sport in the future. But I think it's been a pretty good season.
Ian?
Yeah. I think if you speak to the promoters, they'll say that you sort of, it's not the right word to say, but the nothing meetings, the run-of-the-mill meetings have been, down as far as spectators, but the big meetings have been up. So, I think overall, it's not been a bad year. Like you say, you look at the results sometimes, it's bloody Tom, it's Tom, or it's Ryan. But no different to when it was Folding or Lundy and, you know,
Mm.
Stuart or Frank back in the day, or
Andy
young
Smith.
Andrew and, you know, Andrew and Frankie. So, you know, you always have those that are at the top, but it just seems that at the minute, Tom seems to stand out that little bit. And I think overall, it's, you know, it got off to a very shaky start, didn't it? We all thought it was going to be, we all thought it was going to be handbags at dawn, etc.
Oh, goodness me, that was. I'm so glad that didn't happen, because that would have been an absolute nightmare. That, it's crazy business that was.
So, you know, I think it's been a reasonable season. I think it's one that can be built on. Like Colin said earlier, you know, all the promoters seem to be putting the effort in a little bit. You know, social media helps you. You're always seeing advertisements for the next meeting up on Facebook, etc. And you said, Neil, you know, it seems that they're trying to actually work together a little bit more. You know, I think the dagger that they might be sticking in each other's backs not as big as it used to be. You know, it might just be a penknife now.
Exactly.
No, I'll say how it is. I know.
Yeah, absolutely. You know exactly what's going on, which is good.
Yeah, but
good for us.
You know, at the end of the day, I think everybody in the sport, the BSCDA, you know, Guy, Sophie, the drivers, and the promoters themselves, I think everybody should congratulate themselves on actually putting on a decent season in difficult times.
Yeah, well said. Absolutely well said, Ian. I agree with all that. Everyone involved, BSCDA, BriSCA, fans, drivers, everyone's done their bit to make it a decent season, like I said. And the times are very, very difficult at the moment, which is doesn't help matters. And it always seems to be the case though with stock cars. I mean, I just you know, in the 70s we were going through similar situations to what we are now. Yet the sport thrived through really hard times when, you know, there was unemployment and there's, you know, interest rates were going through the roof and cost of living was terrible. Yeah, stock car racing, everybody went stock car racing, and the sport was absolutely thriving. And it seems to be on the up at the moment. It definitely does. Like I say, if we had gone down the route, it could have gone for that, you know, in March when things were looking like we could have, you know, have no racing at all or hardly anything due to a non-strike. Really, but there you go. I've said it now. But it's, I mean, and I will say as well, the one guy who helped save all that first meeting was Craig Finnegan. He was the one who went against the grain and got people to go, drivers to go to that meeting who weren't, you know, he sort of saved the day that weekend. He was did a fantastic job, and things obviously turned around once, you know, people saw sense in, you know, saw sense, and there was agreement, you know, with the drivers and promoters and all the rest of it, and it all got well, hopefully shelved. It's probably shelved for the time being, hopefully for quite a considerable amount of time. But after that, the season took off and it got better and better and better. And, you know, we've had some great racing, some great memories for people. And like I say, Tom may be winning everything, but like I said, back in the day, I was just looking, you know, when Tom nearly did he was a whisker away from doing a maximum at Bradford, wasn't he? And he just missed out on a maximum. And I was thinking, I thought, how many maximums did Stuart Smith in his heyday do? And I can't remember what the total is, but it was about 30. I think he had about 30 maximums. And there was one period in about 1978 or 77 where he had 4 maximums in a row. From, you know, race obviously then, as you remember, raced virtually every day during the week. So he raced it from the Sunday through to the following Saturday. He had 4 maximums, and then on the Sunday at Hartlepool, he got consolation final on Grand National, so he almost got maximum for the 5th one as well. Virtually unbeatable he was. That didn't stop people going and watching it, though, did it? They loved it.
No. Also have to remember when Stuart first started winning, the final win was excluded from the Grand National.
Yeah.
So
right. Yeah, of course.
He could have added a few more.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, because it's funny, because I was looking back, I didn't realise actually, because I was looking at it, I think, yeah, it all happened through that period. Before that, he didn't seem to get anything. So how does it say he was dominant then? I didn't understand how it didn't happen. But now you explained it, so that makes sense.
You look at some Bellevue seasons, he won like 7 out of the 10 meetings.
Yeah.
So,
amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
But people went to see him get beat as well.
Of course.
And the same with Tom. People go to see Tom to win. Some people go and see him to get beat. But that's all part of the sport, isn't it? As long as it's
absolutely, it's the fabric of it. It's meat and drink, basically. Yeah. Well, there we go, chaps. It's our first Talking Stox debate for, I don't know how long, was it a year? Has it been since the last one?
Yeah.
Has it been as long as that? Seriously, has it been? It's unbelievable, isn't it? I just never realised it was as long as that. So, well, we might be on a bit of a roll then. I think we'll carry on. We'll do a few more of these top 10s. We'll try and get a good top 10 list to get going before Christmas. I'm sure we'll get I'll have some other discussion point that maybe we can talk about in the coming weeks. But so anyway, I'll just say thank you to Colin and to Ian for joining me on this Zoom debate, and we'll see you all again very soon. Take care.